Namaste with Renee. I am your host, Renee Marcou, CEO of the iHeart Academy Life Coaching Certification and Business Building Program, entrepreneur for over 15 years, spiritual and wealth advocate, and professional singer. And in this podcast, we talk about how to disrupt the program of lack and limitation and instead consciously design your life so you can experience more happiness, inner peace. You can be living on purpose in your career and also realize your unlimited potential. Hello and welcome to Namaste with Renee. I am your host, Renee Marcou, a master life coach for over a decade and a manifesting queen. And I'm so excited to invite you to this episode today. I have somebody very special here to share with you her amazing work in the world and how you can take your wellness and amp it up even more. So please welcome to the show, Shayna Meyer. Thank you so much for being here, Shayna.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. And same to you. And so for anybody who doesn't know you yet or what you do in the world, will you just start to open it up and let us know who you are, what you're doing out there and where you came from?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to. As you said, my name is Shayna Meyer. I live currently in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I am an American, married a Canadian, and I found myself up here for the last 8 years. And for 5 or 6 of those, I was a stay-at-home mom, enjoying my life, being focused on my children. I have a son, Axel, who's 6, a daughter, Scarlett, who's 4, and certainly I'm pretty positive without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at, because they certainly have pushed me to look inside and discover all that I can, not only on a level of being great for them, but in helping them and teaching them and leading them along the way. And so as I examined so many things as I became a mother, I started to examine myself. And through that, ultimately, where I'm at now is I developed a method, a movement called the Enjoyment Method, and I help women find daily euphoric joy and ultimately capture the life of their dreams.
Oh, that is so beautiful, Shayna. I definitely would love to hear more about your method. I think that is so incredible that you have decided to lead a movement in this lifetime. So would you share with us what the enjoyment method is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the enjoyment method is a holistic approach to finding that joy. And there's 6 pillars that are made up of the enjoyment method, but 2 that are the most important, and those 2 are physical health and wellness and trauma excavation. And what I'm seeing in the world is that luckily there are so many people starting to focus on trauma, starting to focus on how important that is. No matter who we are, as it's part of basically becoming an adult on some levels, we all face some sort of micro trauma, and a vast number of people have major macro traumas in their life. And that trauma rewrites our physical DNA. So awesome that there's so many people working on these trauma aspects and like really bringing that to a forefront. But then we also have over here the health and wellness industry. And for some reason, which is also amazing, but for some reason, those don't ever seem to link up or work together. So in the enjoyment method, that's what we're doing. We're bringing those 2 to the forefront together, and we're really working on both physical health and wellness, as well as excavating that trauma, bringing a mirror up to ourselves and giving permission to let go of all of the sadness, of all of the shame, of all of the guilt, and really understanding why it was there in the first place. And what happens when we do that, it's like this weight comes off of your shoulders, and there's so much, it's a permission for freedom. And so then we marry that in with adventure, bravery, respite, and ritual. And what we're seeing is these women garnering a life of their dreams and just unapologetically living it out, like living out loud, living in color. It's just super cool.
Oh, that is incredible. Thank you so much for that work that you've brought to the women. It's powerful.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, it's like, it's every day I wake up and I'm like, pinch myself. I've always wanted to do something that really made a difference in this world. I used to be a professional dancer. I used to be a real estate broker in Las Vegas during the height of that market. And, it was just like, I loved that stuff. I was super passionate about it, but there was something like, especially the real estate business, super transactional about it, and always yearned for this, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it until I faced my own trauma. And that was a 15-year journey to do that. And I'm so grateful that I finally was able to do that, because out of facing my own trauma, it was very easy for me to create this method.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And what a beautiful transformation, right? And it's so like interesting that we go through certain things like childhood trauma and different, situations. Like you said, it could be micro trauma, it could be macro, like it hits people in all different ways. And to have a method knowing that, hey, by the end of this, once I walk through this journey, I'm going to feel a little bit lighter, right? I'm not just going to push everything under the rug, pretend everything's okay, put on that happy sticker. Like you're actually going to look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm willing because I love myself. I'm willing to walk through this journey. And I feel like a lot of times, at least with the clients I've worked with, there's this perception of like going through the trauma and looking at it is going to be, it's going to keep somebody stuck or in the dark or feeling worse. But actually, when we bring light to it, we get to see like our own habits and our own behaviors. And we're like, hey, like I have the opportunity to change, because like you were saying, like nobody else can change us, right? It has to be within the self. And to take that control and that power over your own life is such an empowering journey. And I really honor you for walking through whatever it was for you in your life, to not only be able to do it for yourself and your children, like you said, they really helped you look into things differently, but also for the women that you serve now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you again. It's such a pleasure. It's such an honor. I have nothing but gratitude that this was the plan, that some time years and years and years ago, before I came to this planet, that this must have been the route that I chose, and this is the route that was for me. I just feel every day so full of gratitude that I get to do this work. It truly is enriching, but it was quite the journey. For me, I don't know. Do you want to talk about this? Shall I go into like my why I did this?
Exactly. I was just about to ask you. So
I will. I'm happy to share that. Again, that kind of going into what you were saying, that I feel like a lot of us with the trauma that's happened in our lives, these are stories that we don't want to share. For some reason, at some point, our culture has told us that to have shame or to like hide it, and like that's not appropriate to like talk about, for some reason. I don't know, this is just our culture that we're dealing with. So it's almost like trying to hold like a beach ball under the pool or under the water. It's like we're all walking around like pushing this beach ball down, and it's like everybody can see you're pushing some sort of a beach ball down. And at the end of the day, it's like once you just let it up and let it out, it dissipates. There's something really profound about it, that it's just like, oh, it's like just a deep breath, and it all becomes okay as we allow it. But for me, what happened was again, this has been a 15-year journey. And when I was about 25 or 26 years old, I was running a very successful real estate business in Las Vegas. I was up at 3:30 every morning, working out 6-7 days a week. I had clients by 7 a.m. I was showered, ready, had done spin class, dressed to the nines. I was a size 2, making millions of dollars a year, fancy clothes, driving the Range Rover, mixing, having drinks with like all the fancy people, and there was just some sort of like emptiness there. And I grew up very wholesome in southern Idaho on a ranch, and I was raised to know that those things are never going to make you happy.
Right.
The goal-oriented side of me was so driven and so focused on achievement and ticking those boxes. And one day, this is one of the most embarrassing stories of my life, but I share it because it is the moment where I realized. But basically, I was getting a diamond ring fixed, and it was right next to a Starbucks. So I whip in because I'm in such a hurry. I'm so busy with all my real estate contracts and whatever. I drop my ring off and I run out and I get in my car and I'm just about to back out. And a little old lady, I mean, she's probably 80, 85, maybe even older. She is walking so slowly and she needs to steady herself on my car. And I'm in a hurry. I need to leave. And she has her hand there, and then she has her hand there again. And this like fury and anger and impatience is just rumbling through me. I finally roll down my window and I stick my head out and I say, "Lady, I need to leave. Please get your hand off my car." And she looked at me with all of her wisdom and in all of her years, and she said to me, "You are one miserable little girl." And I thought,
Wow.
of course, at that time, I didn't show her that. There was a ton of pride there. There was a ton of everything else going on. And I said, "Get your hand off of my car."
Mm-hmm.
I squealed out and I drove away. And I was just sick. But I kept going, kept working. And that night when I laid down in bed, I thought to myself, what the hell has happened to you? What has happened to Shayna from the ranch, that grew up as a cowboy's daughter and that just loved being out with the horses and the grass and the smells of nature and basking at the mountains and the simple joys of life. Like I was just a bottomless pit of sadness. And so that moment, I said, enough, I'm done. And it wasn't even a year later that I had walked away from the real estate business, went back home to Idaho, bought a log home there, put my boots and jeans on, and just decided to start figuring this out. And it took me, that story chokes me up because it really is the moment where I just realized such a miserable, sad girl. That lady was so right. And I really wish I could find her and hug her. I've wanted to hug that lady so many times because truly she was that mirror that I needed at that moment. And I want her to know that wasn't taken for granted, that I took that, her look and her message that day and use it to transform myself and really look inside and it took 15 years. And it wasn't until I was 40 years old and I had my 2 kids and there was still, life is good and I have an amazing husband. All the things kept being in place and there was still just something. And because of my kids, I started to really delve into family stuff and generational trauma and how the way I was raised, is that normal? And ultimately I discovered that I was a product of motherly narcissistic abuse. And when I finally found that is that beach ball that like as soon as I was like, okay, now I can change.
Yes.
And it took 15 years of really working on it. And so that's my story. That's how I got to here. And my kids are my why. They are, again, if I didn't have my kids, I would probably have been able to deal with my mom, but I just was so adamant about it not coming on to my kids. And I don't want her to treat them the way she treated me. So I started to look at it more and discovered that. And And through all of that and through the healing process and really putting all the pieces of that puzzle together, that is how I came up with the enjoyment method.
Wow, what a beautiful story. Thank
Oh,
you for being so vulnerable and open and sharing that with us. I think that we are blessed by the universe when the universe delivers a message, whether through a person or a post or whatever, and we really let it sink in that present moment and we say, oh my goodness, yes, it's that spark that can lead us into a whole new life. And the fact that you got that from that older woman, who knows where she is now, but I
yeah,
mean, you could send her love and light wherever she is, and just how
it's so
she
true.
has transformed your life because
Yes.
of that moment.
Yes, and oh, I've just felt awful that she was at the hand of such an angry person, and at the same time, I have so much gratitude for her in my
Yeah.
life. Yeah, and I think that that is such an important message that we look at our lives and realize that everything that happens to us is happening for us,
It
right?
is. Yes. I'm
And
getting
Milet, he's
so
one of my favorite people. If you don't follow Milet, definitely do that. But he always says that. He always hammers that home. And I just think it's so true. I look back over my life and the ugliest, darkest, saddest, worst times really are the ones that propel me forward. And so it's a big message for right now. I mean, we are in wacky, crazy, cuckoo times, but I'm just in such belief that this is for collective transformation. This is for universal transformation. And
yes.
so, not to live in so much fear, not to live in so much drudgery and all the things. Just have faith that all this is happening for us.
Yes, it is. Oh, I so love that you said that. And actually, that quote came into my space today too. And oh my gosh, is it so
Really?
true? Like
Uh,
it's working for us. Like every experience, every challenge, anything that comes up in our lives, even the mirrors, right? To show us, hey, we can transform this part of us here. As long as we step up and take the opportunity, there's always going to be light. Even walking through the traumas and things, it's like you said, I love the analogy of the beach ball, trying to hold it underwater, because it's the trauma will continue to be there in your mind. And no matter how many times you try to shut it out, or you want to change certain ways and behaviors, or you want to attract different levels of human beings, right? Like someone who's a little bit more in tune or not narcissistic, right? It is those types of experiences that we have to really look at and say, okay, like it's not going to be as hard as holding on to the beach ball underwater. Like,
yes,
not,
exactly.
yeah,
This is one of those things that I'm hoping to change just as a culture. For some
yeah,
reason,
yeah,
it's just like, oh my gosh, don't talk about that. Don't talk about it. It's like, no, 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 no. Everybody is so sad and so anxious and so depressed and so all the things
mhm,
because we're telling them like not to face all this stuff over here. And those stories and that trauma that creates the fiber of who we are. That's the color, that's the beauty. These are the things we've overcome. These are the stories we should be telling. These are the
yes,
stories we should be focusing on. Like, oh my gosh, that story that I just told you, I would have never told anybody in a million years until I realized, and I never had to. I was alone in my car, never seen that lady ever again, and never will.
yeah,
But I all of a sudden realized that's the moment. And that story needs to be told so that people understand these are the moments that change your life.
yeah.
These are the moments that color your life with those shades so that you can go live your best life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, what a beautiful story. I love this so much and I love what you
Oh,
do. And
good.
I know for sure you and I will link arms and continue to, share. Like I want to help share your
100%.
message and get it out there too. I think it's super potent and super powerful. And I think the more that we allow others, to see that it's okay to have these conversations and see that it's okay to be forgiving of ourselves, we really get to show up and live our best lives. Right. And, as you were mentioning, for you grew up you were a professional dancer. And for me, I grew up being a professional singer. And so I
Amazing.
started pursuing music professionally when I was 15 years old. And I was, so vulnerable. And my family, I come from a family, they own jewelry stores my whole life. So that we were in retail. Music was a totally different
Yes.
outlet. And
Yes.
so I'm saying to myself, I'm like in the industry and things were good, but they weren't great. And I always had my mind set on my ideal dream life. I knew that I came here to use my voice in such a way. And at the time, like during being a teenager and into my young 20s, I was just very trusting of the people around me. And it ended up leading me into something that's more transformational work. Like there was a lot in the industry. I don't know if this was your experience as well, but it was just all about beauty and all about having this specific look and this specific attitude towards people who wanted your autograph and just things that were so out of alignment for me. And I'm like, I'm here on this planet to help people. I know that for sure. If I can help people through songs, then great. But I'm not going to put on this facade about like, I'm so special and pedestal me in order for me to connect to people. That does not resonate. That is not here. And so that's when life coaching came into my life. And I was 21 years old when I first started my own coaching business, because I said, like, the music industry, my experience
Yes.
wasn't so loving.
I think the entertainment industry in general is extremely cutthroat, extremely
Right.
shallow. A lot of things like that. Of course, we see some of these artists emerging that are really super authentic and really have an
Yes.
awesome message to
Yes.
share, and
Yes.
somehow get the creative control to do that, which is
Yes.
incredible. But I had kind of a triple-edged sword. So number one, I experienced exactly what you did, of course. Like, when I would audition for jobs, it was like 2 jobs and 700 girls in Vegas, like trying to make their way. Luckily, I was like always of the body size and hair color and all the things where it actually paid off for me. So I worked the whole time through university.
Wow.
But as soon as university was over, this is another one of the boxes that I was ticking for my mom that I
Mhm.
really didn't put all together until in the last few years. But as soon as university was over, I was so tired because I had been on my own since I was 14 when I left my mom and dad's house to go to the performing arts high school. So I was really tired of ramen noodles and I was really tired of being dead broke. So I was like, I need to make some money.
Yeah.
So and then also, dance again, that's really what my mom wanted me to do. And I love dance, but she loved it for me more.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about all of that is that I was athletically perfect. I was, again, always was able to, stay the right body size. I was really gifted, great feet, like all those like genetic things. I wasn't super flexible, but that was something I was able to work through. And ultimately I was overly crazy flexible, but that always came at a challenge. So in general, I had like all the physical things. But as you know, as an entertainer, you've got to have it here. You've got to have it like in that soul and the vibe and the everything. And because I was so used to like trying to please my mom and please, I just like, did I do it right? Am I did it? Is everything? I never arose to the levels of dance that I could have if she would have just left me alone.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, she was the one that wanted it for me more. So it was just this weird situation. But through all that pressure and all the, like you said, the gross industry of the entertainment industry and my sheer need to make some money, I left the industry and I ended up, I wasn't as smart as you were. I ended up first in the transactional business of real estate, which I enjoyed and had so much fun and learned so much about business and life and all of that. So I don't, of course, don't regret it, but it would be great to have been in the personal growth space for over 20 years now.
Oh my gosh. No, but exactly where our journey has taken us though, right? You have
Absolutely.
these amazing skills and business and I'm sure you're able to implement that into your coaching business as well and all
Oh,
the things that
yeah.
you're
And it
doing.
all builds confidence and
Yeah.
character. And of course, it wouldn't change a thing. I'm so grateful for exactly where I am. But that was my journey. That was definitely part of it. And it was fun. Those real estate business years were fun. Allowed me to let off some steam and just kind of be a human.
Yeah.
So disciplined and trained and all that stuff as a dancer. So it was kind of just nice to be for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what's led me to here. And again, like nothing but gratitude and I am so excited to get to know you and definitely share each other's messages and keep linked
Yes,
up.
definitely. Thank you so much for that. And I do want to know what are you currently offering with your in your business or like how your method? Do you have anything that my listeners can go and find you on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go and find me on Instagram at the Shayna Meyer. And you can also find me on my website at shaynamichelle.ca. Again, I am in Canada right now. I'm just about ready to split my time both between US. I'll be spending 6 months in the US in Scottsdale and then the other 6 months here. So I am so grateful. That's been basically since I moved here 8 years ago. That's been the goal and the dream.
Yes,
So it's coming to reality, which is so wonderful.
that's really
Um,
exciting.
so yeah, both of those places. And then once you get to my Instagram, you can find me on my closed Facebook page. And I am constantly leading all sorts of herbal wellness groups. And of course, the enjoyment method, which is a 5-month container. The next one starts in June. So lots of opportunity there and would love to link up with any of your listeners and
Oh my
see if
God.
we can do some good.
Yes, absolutely. I've so enjoyed having you here in this podcast. I know for sure we could keep on talking and keep sharing such beautiful messages for anybody who's tuning in. And I honor you and your path. And I thank you so much for sharing your beautiful light and energy and your story here with us. I know for me, it's completely up leveled my day for sure. I feel your expansion and had helped my expansion. It's nice to connect with like minds and somebody who also was in the entertainment business and now in the coaching industry and just
Yes.
see how that, how it's unfolded.
Yeah,
Um,
the evolution is great. I know
yeah.
so much synergy here, Renee. Thank you so much for having me. I am
Mhm.
so appreciative of that and for you giving me time and space. And I wish you nothing but the most incredible day.
Thank you. And same right back to you. And thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to this episode. Please feel free to find Shayna on her channels that she has gifted you. And also, if you are looking to connect with me, you know where to find me, reneemarcou.com. That's ReneeMarcou.com. And also join the tribe on Facebook, Namaste, the podcast. And we look forward to serving you again in another episode. Namaste.